After the Brooklyn Nets brushed aside the Cleveland Cavaliers, they made it to the playoffs and will face the Boston Celtics in what should be an absolute thriller. The Celtics have enjoyed an incredible campaign and finished 2 wins behind the leader Miami Heat in the Eastern Conference. On the other hand, the Nets are hardly anyone's favorite matchup, and they might have another ace up their sleeve. Ben Simmons, Nets' secret weapon? The Nets have one of the best rosters in the league, and although they had an underwhelming season, they've momentum on their side and good form to get the fans excited. A team containing Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving doesn't generally lack anything, and they've proven that time and again, despite featuring together a lot less than they would have liked to. Somehow, even with the departure of James Harden, the Nets aren't any weaker and could still get stronger as a certain star speeds up his recovery on the sidelines. Ben Simmons has been injured ever since he was traded for James Harden from the Sixers and is yet to make his debut for Brooklyn Nets. The Australian remains one of the most exciting talents in the league, and it comes as no wonder that the Nets fans can't wait to see him in action. Playing for the Sixers, Ben Simmons had a terrible season after refusing to play and wanting a move, and eventually, when his wish was granted, he got diagnosed with a herniated disc in his back. So far, it has been a tough switch, but for the first time since his move in February, things are looking better for Simmons, and he could feature in the playoffs. Heavier progress for Ben Simmons. Steve Nash revealed the good news about Ben Simmons, and it offers a glimmer of hope for everyone except people associated with the Boston Celtics. Nash acknowledged that Simmons had been showing heavier progress, and it looks as if he's stepping up movement in the court before a potential comeback in the playoffs. His improvement has been down to the epidural injection he got in mid-March, and The Athletic revealed that he was much closer to a comeback than initially believed. This was also sort of confirmed with footage released that showed Simmons moving around on court and shooting. The Athletic posted that Ben Simmons was working on a comeback by Game 3 versus the Celtics. Highly promising update, but as always, take your news with a pinch of salt, because when Steve Nash was asked about Simmons' return, he denied reports of a comeback by Game 3. He explained that even he didn't know if Simmons was targeting a return by that time, and there was no update on his timetable. Yes, it could be mind games from Nash, but Game 3 still sounds a little optimistic, to say the least. Then again, weirder things have happened, and you can only write Simmons off at your own peril. Despite the progress, according to Nash, Simmons hasn't been running full speed and hasn't played against anyone, so it's harder to put a time frame on his return. The progress has stepped up more in the last week than in the previous 3 weeks, and that's a ray of hope, but with time running out, Simmons will need a miracle to make it. Jason Tatum on Simmons' potential return versus the Celtics. It seems as if the fans aren't the only ones reading about the potential return of Ben Simmons in the playoffs. As it turns out, Jason Tatum, Boston Celtics star, also took note of the rumors and pointed out that their focus was mainly on the players that are available for the Nets. That's probably the smarter way of looking at things, because it isn't like Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving are going to be easy opponents. Either way, even by the most optimistic of standards, Simmons isn't penciled in for a return before Game 3, so there are 2 games to look forward to before any return. However, Tatum did mention that they will prepare for Ben Simmons, should he be nearing a return by Game 3. "We cross that bridge when we get there," said Tatum, while gearing up for the blockbuster clash. The Celtics have made it clear that they aren't afraid of the Nets, or any other franchise for that matter. They could have rested key players and avoided a potential clash against the Nets by manipulating their playoff seed, but their focus was on themselves and being the best version of themselves. That's why it's only expected that they aren't too worried if the Nets do potentially get stronger with the return of Ben Simmons. Plus, there's no point running away from any side, especially in the playoffs, especially when you've finished the season so strongly. Ben Simmons has his confidence back. As per the insider news, the Celtics should be worried about a potential Ben Simmons return. NBA insider Brandon "Scoop B" Robinson revealed that the Brooklyn players have been making Simmons feel a lot more at home and are hyping him up in training, challenging the Australian in practice. An undisclosed Brooklyn player revealed to Robinson that Simmons' swag is at an all-time high. That's interesting, as it could mean a potential return could be nearer than Nash is claiming, and that the Nets realize Simmons could be the decisive factor in making them challengers for the championship, especially when you consider the fact that they wouldn't need him to play every minute and can use him to lock down opponents. He also disclosed that Simmons has been walking around like Jordan. It definitely feels like Simmons has moved past the disappointments earlier in the season and feels ready, at least mentally, to take on the challenge at the Nets and help them become champions. It would obviously help if he doesn't feel the pressure from the first minute, as KD and Irving are in some crazy form, and if you add Simmons to that team, it might just get really tough for the Celtics. Rob Williams, very real chance of return. Brooklyn Nets aren't the only side looking for a boost from recovering players, as there's a very real chance that Time Lord could return in time for the Celtics showdown against the Nets. It was initially believed that the Nets were in luck because they were playing the Celtics much earlier and at a time when they were without their big man, Rob Williams. However, that seems to have changed, as Rob Williams has been meeting all the benchmarks for a potential return and could make one in the series against the Nets. The Nets will be looking to get off to a flyer and not take the series deep into Game 6 or 7, because that would give Williams enough time to make a return and tilt the game in favor of the Celtics. The 24-year-old has been a revelation for the Celtics and could be the difference between the two sides. D'Angelo Russell and Anthony Edwards inspire Timberwolves to victory. The Minnesota Timberwolves faced the LA Clippers for a place in the playoffs, and it turned out to be just as exciting as previewed. The Clippers were running away with the game in the fourth quarter until Russell and Edwards combined to help the Timberwolves put together a 16-2 run late in the quarter. It was even more impressive from the Minnesota side because they were without Karl Anthony Towns until the end of the night. Even when he played, he looked off color and couldn't string together a decent performance, but the rest of the boys made up for it and inspired a comeback late in the game to hand the Timberwolves a famous win. This win takes the Timberwolves to the playoffs, as they recorded only their second postseason win since 2004, and as expected, there were lots of celebrations after the match. The Minnesota Timberwolves will come up against the Memphis Grizzlies in the opening round playoff series, and they'll be hoping Towns can rediscover his form. Final chance for the Cleveland Cavaliers. It's an actual knockout game, as the Cavaliers take on the Hawks for a final place in the playoffs, setting up a clash against the Eastern Conference toppers, Miami Heat. While that will prove to be another daunting task, both sides need to take this final opportunity and somehow progress. The Cavaliers lost to the Brooklyn Nets, while the Atlanta Hawks beat the Charlotte Hornets to set up the knockout play-in fixture. Trae Young and DeAndre Hunter were unplayable, with crucial contributions from the likes of Clint Capella and Danilo Gallinari. For the Cavaliers, it's a different reading, as they've only won one game in their last 5, although that was an impressive win against the Bucks. Either way, the writing's on the wall for both sides, and they know what they need to do. In their previous 4 meetings this season, the Hawks led by 3-1, winning the final 3. Although the Hawks haven't been great on the road and the Cavs have a decent home record, the fixture should be decided by the matchup between the point guards, Trae Young and Darius Garland. If Garland can match Young's pace, the Cavs might just pull off a big win. That's a wrap for this video. Do you have anything to say about Ben Simmons' potential return or any of the other NBA news? Let us know in the comments below. Make sure to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more videos like this. See you in the next one.